Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today we are looking at the Deneva class. Now, we're going to jump around a couple different spots here. Um, this is a class that's been kind of referenced a couple different times, apparently, and everyone's got a different version of what the Deneva should look like and what it should be. Now, I have grabbed the Deneva from our last Unicorn Games source book because I figured that we'll just kind of go through some of these ships that we have here that aren't listed maybe somewhere else or whatever have us. And we'll just kind of go from there. Now, looking at Daystrom, because it popped up that Daystrom does have a very little blip, and this is all we have. So this comes from the Prime timeline. It's a Federation class freighter. We do have the USS LaSalle, USS Akros, and there's been 118 others built, and 61 have unfortunately been lost. From what they have listed, there's only a hull armor of rating of 10, a speed of 707, and a combat maneuverability of 4,000. Overall strength index is 85, and that's all they have listed. There's no pictures, no nothing, whatever else is there. There's just nothing there. And then from the old Fasa. Now, we do have from Fasa Trek, which is wonderful because Fasa, being the first ones to have the license to the role playing game, they came up with a lot of interesting stuff to try and fill the gap that we just did not have at the time. So as you can see, this is a standard transport. We do have landing gear, so we can land this on the ground. We have 4 warp nacelles. These are smaller warp nacelles, more towards the next generation slash later movie years um, configuration for the warp nacelles. And then we kind of go from there. It has a modular cargo area here. As you can see, we have like a fly-through shuttle bay, which is very nice. I do kind of like that design. I think it adds a little extra flavor, especially for a small cargo vessel. And then it's going to have a lot of stats here going on down. We're not using these stats, so I'm not so worried about it all. It's saying it has a warp 8 emergency speed of warp, or safe cruise is warp 6, emergency is warp 8, and that's how they had differentiated theirs. And they went off of a power kind of framework, very much like what Lug had done, where you have so much power being generated, and then you had to try and figure out what went to your shields, what went to speed, what went to weapons, and so on and so forth. So you had to balance that a little bit better than what I will ever do in the D6 version of doing Star Trek. Um, so going on from there, this is designed by Reverend. I don't know if that's the actual person that came up with the artwork here or not. It's just kind of going from there. What we do have is we have the stats that I've come up with, and I will read what we have here in um, our last unicorn. But this is also put up here in my initial search. So the Deneva class is a light transport starship in Star Trek universe, primarily used by the Federation Starfleet in the 24th century. This was commissioned back in 2318 and became one of the Federation's primary vessels for transporting personnel and material. The design features a basic frame that can accommodate up to 6 transport modules compared to the 3 I've seen in other ones, allowing it to perform various tasks such as diplomatic missions and cargo transport. Specifications: the Deneva is known for its efficiency with a standard cruise speed of warp factor 7.62 and the ability to achieve higher speeds under certain conditions. The cargo capacity can support up to 3 modular support assemblies, which can carry various types of cargo, including bulk freight and foodstuffs. Now, um, with this all being said, let's get into what I've created, and I will read through what we have listed here in Last Unicorn Games. All right, so uh, going for the Federation Deneva class. These transports are familiar sight on worlds and star bases throughout the Federation space. One of the most common types of Starfleet transport vessels, the class has been in service since the early 24th century. These ships are considered or are used by Starfleet sector commands to transport everything from deuterium to photon warheads. Its unique modularity accounts for much of the popularity of this vessel's design. The main compartments can be configured to accept any of several prefabricated designs, including passenger quarters, standard cargo bays, hydroponic plant modules, security modules, and biological medical transfer modules. Most starbases have several of each type of module on hand. All right, from there, let's get on over to this. As we look at the design here, and hopefully you guys are watching this. If you're not and you're just kind of listening, there is a long boom on the back side of this. This is a relatively flat vessel. And what we can do is we can actually put in cargo modules into this. And I think when we look at this, at the picture, we can see two modules already here. And what that allows us to do is add either these smaller modules, up to 6 of them, or big container modules that essentially are double the size of each one of these for different facilitations of, transporting weapons, foodstuffs, crew, what have you. Okay, and we go from there. The side view is a very flat version of this vessel for the most part because it's this big boom that can hold all the different modules here. All right, so it's a light transport capital scale, has a length of 210 meters. So going by our rule sets, trying to keep this roughly about right, it would give it somewhere around the 200,000 metric tons. So I kept the 200,000 or 233,000 metric ton, kind of making it not quite the 200, giving it a little bit extra here. It does put this ship into a size 5 uh, category. I've kept the autopilot at a 3D plus 1. Now, it says our standard crew is only 90. Now, this is coming from the last Unicorn Games. So there's your standard crew, there's the passenger availability, and then there's your emergency. You can haul however many more. Now, what I'm just going to do is just the crew and the passengers being so much more, because this can also be used to transport passengers in different modules. We can run this with a skeleton crew, and I usually go with 1/10 of the actual crew size. So that's how I come up with my skeleton crew. So we have a skeleton of 9 at a plus 10 to all of our skill rolls. Passengers is being 1,100 passengers available on board ship, whether that's probably having a couple different modules put in there. Seeing that the actual deck size for all of this is 11 decks tall. We do have cargo capacity getting somewhere around 300,000 metric tons. Now, I grabbed this somewhat from the Galaxy class being a much bigger vessel. I wanted this to be able to represent having a larger cargo capacity because of the modules here. So that's where I kind of got that from, just trying to pick on something else that might have a bigger amount of cargo available. The Galaxy class, to me, emphasized that, so that's where I kind of grabbed that from. Consumables, we have 3 years worth. Warp drive, in the last Unicorn game, it's denoted that a standard cruise speed is 5, our max cruise is going to be 9, and our emergency would be a 9.2 for 6 hours. We do have our nav computer. Maneuverability, I didn't touch that, so we're still at a 0D plus 2. I think that's what we had on the Apollo. Our space is a 7.5. This can go to a 0.75 Cochrane. So that's where I got that from. Our hull and our shields in some of the different design printouts that I have for trying to do this. Um, Puts us anywhere from a 1D plus 2 to a 3D plus 2 for a hull. So I figured 2D plus 2 is right there in the middle. That's a safe place to be. That's where I have that. And the shields accordingly, nothing really said anything different. So I figured a 1D plus 2 fits the bill pretty good there as well. Now, we have a Type 5 sensor system. Okay, so that does keep our passive and all those at the same ranges that we had on the Apollo, and a Type 5 for our rating for our scanning. Does give us a 40 or 4 kilometer range with a +1 to our skill. An active scan going out to 12 kilometers at a +2 to our skill. An active search going out to 15 kilometers at a 1D +1 skill bonus, and a focus out to 500 meters at a 1D +2. Um, just seeing where I got that from, that's why I did put in that this is a Type 5 sensor system. Now, this is only listed as having a Type 6 phaser. Now, I've put in there that we have 4 of them. I figured 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom on the what would be the saucer section area here. So, with that being said, there are 4 of them, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, on the front. So anything coming from the rear, you're probably not going to be able to take care of it. Um, Being a strict transport, it's not really meant for combat, so it just is what it is. Now, um, gives us a fire control of 0D +2. Rate of fire could be anywhere from 1 to 5. I figured 3 is right there in the middle, so we'll do a 3 at a damage of 2D +1. Let's see, we have getting into our tractor beams. These are all the same that we've seen variously throughout so many different ships. So a strength of 40 +2 for our forward and aft tractor beam, as well as our cargo bay having a strength of 3D. Now, this is, like I said, it has 11 decks. Figuring out how many escape pods, we're going to need about 300 with a capacity of 4 personnel in each pod. So I gave us 320, being a little above for an extra safety. Uh, this has been commissioned in 2318 by Earth Reckoning. Transporters, as listed by Last Unicorn Games, we have 3 personnel transporters, 3 emergency transporters, and 8 cargo transporters. Now, I left the shuttlecraft alone, but looking at it and thinking of it a little differently now, looking at how this all is, I think I'm a little generous, but I'll still leave it in here at being 10 shuttlecraft. Okay, we have 3 shuttle pods. I don't think we're going to have any probes though. So let me take the probes off of here and just put in none, because without any launcher system or whatever else, I don't think we're going to have any probes to worry about. Kind of hard to have probes without a launching system. And then that ends up our ship here for the day. Um, the big question is, which ship would you really like to see as the Deneva? Now, you could grab this and then put it for any one of these if you really wanted to, and that would really work. It's just the question of, which one would you rather have? And that's an open discussion that you guys can have in the comments or whatever else. I do like the one from from Fasa. It is a nice looking ship. I don't think it's going to be quite as big as this, but as a smaller transport, I think that one works. I think that would be more of a cargo shuttle in a way, and maybe we should do that as that type of a concept. But that's up for you to, you know, kind of bring up and let me know. I think that one would work as a class 3 size ship and kind of go from there. But with all that being said, thank you for stopping by. It's always wonderful having you here. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you in the next video.